Hello everyone, it's DuckFairy07. Today we are playing Orzhov Scam. So the red-black scam is gone from the format banned and many people are left wondering what deck to play and how to play scam in the future. Orzhov is definitely one of 2-3 good or the best options available right now. Okay, so the Orzhov Scam is not the same deck as the red-black scam, not power-wise or not the idea is not the same. So how do you play this version? So with this version, when you grief Ephemerate on turn 1, you actually take in most cases 3 cards. So this is very different than from taking 2 cards. It can devastate opponent hand even more, but also you're missing a turn of attack. So you're skipping 1 turn of attack to be able to exile 1 more card from opponent's hand, which means obviously this version it wants to play a bit slower game. They still want to strip you out of the resources, still want to apply early pressure, and still want to resolve the most wanted threats, okay? But in a slightly different fashion, in the slightly slower way. So this deck doesn't have a clock that provides turn 1 Fury, turn 2 Fury, whatever. Doesn't have that devastating effect, but it has something else. It has Ephemerate and Solitude. Solitude has Flash. So in some cases when you're playing against aggro decks, I would say against pure aggro decks that Orzhov can be even better, because often the play you can do here is Flash is very important piece of Solitude. You can flash Solitude, then play Ephemerate. Instant speed, exile 2 opponent creatures, block a 3rd creature, and then on your upkeep, play the rebound, exile 4 creature. This can and that can be like huge creatures like Murktides, like whatever, it's not important. You're not dealing damage, you're just exiling them. Also, it's great against shadow decks, and the shadow might be popular again, who knows. Okay, so what else do we got here? So the thing, I've been playing this list a lot, and I had multiple trophies in the last 6-8 months with this list, and I've been doing great with it. Okay, so the inclusion I did in this list was adding Grixis Yawgmoth Praetor. I think this kind of list benefits from having a 3 mana spell. So the 3 mana spells are important for a list like this, so you have some kind of curve. So you have 14 1 mana spells, 12 2 mana spells, and having a 3 mana spell in a list like this just feels natural and fits the mana curve very well. So I would like for this spell either to be 3 mana or 1 mana, so it fits my mana curve better. And what this list always missed and what it always wanted was a card advantage. So we have powerful 3 mana card advantage card that fits the curve well. Fits the idea well, because we have a lot of creatures. Orcish Bowmaster putting 2 creatures on the field, Stoneforge also, like putting Kaldra and Stoneforge. We have Esper Sentinel, which also can apply early pressure and deal damage, and Dauthi Voidwalker, which has evasion and is also good with Gix. Also Grief, when scammed, also has menace. So a lot of evasive creatures here, and the creature tokens with Orcish Bowmaster. Okay, so all of these cards work well with Gix. Gix provides much needed card advantage in this list, and imagine sometimes you have Orcish Bowmaster in your hand and the opponent taps out, you play Orcish Bowmaster, end of turn, put 2 creatures on the field, on your turn you play Gix, attack with Bowmaster, draw 2 cards. That kind of value you get there, it's very very hard to opponents to get back from that effect, because there is no more Fury in the format. They can't play just Fury, kill your Bowmaster, kill Gix, whatever. It's very very hard for them to get out of that. So you draw 2 cards, and those 2 cards can be Thoughtseize, it can be Grief. You can do a lot of stuff after that, and yeah, and next turn, even if they kill Gix, you have chances of drawing another. I think it's very important card for this deck, and I would play at least 3, but I prefer 4. Okay, so Gix really helped in my experience in a lot of matchups to make this deck playable and make it sometimes steal a lot of amount of games. You are always trying to play Gix like a surprise card. It's surprise, you slam it and then you draw a card, and it almost has, in a lot of cases when you plan your plays, it has an immediate effect when it enters the battlefield. Okay, so that is it. That is it. I played just 2 Thoughtseize in this deck. This deck is not proactive like the red-black scam. You can't just every turn just attack your opponent, pressure their life total non-stop. Okay, you can apply pressure by playing creatures, Esper Sentinel, Dauthi, Stoneforge, but also in a lot of these cases you have to be a bit more patient than when playing red-black scam. You need to stay back, let your opponent build a board, and then use a Solitude, Grief, a Gix, whatever in appropriate moment. Okay, so that is it. Stoneforge Mystic is there to get you that clock that this deck misses. The Kaldra is the best available clock in this version, so there is no better clock than Kaldra. It wins the game the fastest, and decks like Rakdos or Murktide really don't have a ways to deal with Kaldra, and it ends the game well if you can just play it like turn 3, play Stoneforge, resolve it and hold Not Dead After All or Ephemerate. Often those kind of plays can let you resolve Kaldra, and when you resolve this early, it's very hard for them to raise it. Okay, Sword of Fire Ice specifically best in the Murktide matchup. I would like to have like War and Peace on the sideboard for the Omnath matchup, depending how popular it is, because now without Fury it's very hard for them to deal with pro-white. They have to have binding on the sword first, then kill the creature later. It's not that easy. Okay, so that is basically it. Rest is, I think my sideboard works very well. It's a sideboard I tweaked a lot and played a lot with this list. In the past it works very well. So far the most important cards for me in the sideboard were Damn and Temporary Lockdown. I would definitely include these cards in every sideboard. I think like I would like Turak, of course, also. Turak because the pro-white was just much better right now than it was before with Fury gone, and the pro-white just kills those Omnath decks. So Turak could be option instead of Sheldred. Sheldred, of course, is still very good against ring decks. So there are stuff to consider. Rest in Peace. So this version can actually play Rest in Peace. Most of the cases you just cut 2 dead not dead after alls for it, and you have the best graveyard hate piece on your sideboard available in your scam deck. Okay, so plus Dauthi Voidwalker, that is a lot of graveyard hate, so I expect still for this strategy to be very strong against graveyard strategies. Okay, so that is it, and yeah, let's go check out the gameplay. Okay, so 7-3 record so far in the first 2 leagues I played with this list. Feels very strong, feels very good, and you will see it yourself. Okay, so here we are. So you will see how different is actually the Ephemerate from how different is Ephemerate from Undying Spell. So we get to do ability here 3 times. This is much different, and we also don't get to attack here. But taking so much cards is really strong. And here I have another Ephemerate. This is something you can't do with a red-black scam. So we can just I can just Ephemerate on my turn, take more cards. It's such a devastating play against the opponent, and here I also take their bolt, and they're left with just a single card in their hand. So basically I discarded 5 cards in the first 2 turns from opponent's hand. This is like crazy. Okay, opponent finds the best possible top deck for them in this situation. They find the Orcish Bowmaster, but they're stuck on 2 lands. I know they have Tidebinder in their hand, and I find the Not Dead After All. I'm very happy with this draw. The scam spell here really helps me if they try to double block my Grief. By this time I'm just attacking with Grief. They're trying to find some additional piece of interaction, but now they're on 2 and they don't have any more options, so they got to go for the blocks. And yeah, so they go double block on Grief. I use my Undying spell and opponent concedes the match. That is game 1. Let's check out the game 2. Okay, so this league was really close to trophying, really exciting league, and the show, I think it shows the deck strength very well. Okay, so this is the list that has been popular. Young Dingo did good with it. The Grixis Wizards with Ring. Okay, so for this matchup they play the Bowmasters, so the Sentinels go out definitely. Okay, so other than that, I don't really want any other cards. I was considering like Rest in Peace, but all I want here really is like a Dam to have a good answer to their Sheldred, the Murktide, and other creatures. Yeah, so that is it. Okay, so I just go for another Gix here. I can't really risk going for Ephemerate when they have open mana, and I just basically played my Gix to trick them into tapping out. That was my plan all along. And okay, so now I go for Ephemerate Rebound, and they have 3 Bowmasters and a Sheldred. So I feel like they definitely want to play Sheldred next turn if they get a land. So I didn't want them to play the double Bowmaster, and I expected them to play one in this turn. So if they had double Bowmaster here, they can kill my Grief. I don't really like the triple Bowmaster, so I discarded the Bowmaster. On their turn they play Sheldred, and it's easy for me to deal with the Sheldred. Just a Solitude end of turn, and then I have another one. Okay, so the key, this is the win. So this was the easy win, but it could easily be a lot different. So I was patient. This is what I was explaining in the beginning. So when you're playing the Orzhov version, you have to be patient and not just go all in all the time, just attack your opponent directly to face. It's a different playstyle that you're used to when playing the Red Black Scam. Okay, so I was patient, I waited, I sacrificed 2 Gix just because my opponent can't let me attack with Gix and deal damage. Then I draw a card, it feels bad for them, so they have to kill it, and I used the Gix to make them tap out, then scam the Grief and got the win, discarded a bunch of cards from their hand, and that was it. So that was match 1. Let's check out match 2. Okay, we'll go through the wins first, and then we will watch that only defeat I had in this league. Okay, so this time no scam spells available, but this is decent hand, like what I was talking before. Okay, so when you have Gix with Orcish Bowmaster in hand, this can end up pretty good for you and pretty devastating for the opponent. So if you can if they tap out on their turn 3, end of turn you can go like Orcish Bowmaster, do something with Bowmaster, whatever, and then on your turn play the Gix while they're tapped out and try to draw a bunch of cards if possible. Okay, so my opponent was playing Giant Sacrifice. Really love this deck. I am definitely a fan of this deck, or I was before when it was stronger, but definitely a fun deck that maybe gets something right now, some playability, let's say. Okay, so here I go with attacking with my Orc, attacking their Planeswalker. Opponent tries to kill it with the Goblin Bombardment. I play another Bowmaster to grow my Orc and pass the turn. I have very limited options here. My opponent has a setup board with Grist, Mayhem Devil and Goblin Bombardment. It's pretty hard for me to get out of this situation. Okay. Opponent goes for another company, hitting 2 Seasoned Pyromancer, and yeah, this is too much. So with Grist and Devil and Bombardment on the field, hitting 2 Bombardments It's just too much, and yeah, basically I concede, nothing I can do there. So let's check out the game 2. Okay, so let's check out the sideboarding plan. So in this matchup, they're probably playing Bloodgusts. Most of the lists are playing Bloodgusts, and they also have the Season Pyromancer. They have a Grist which can ulti. So I kind of want the resting pieces. So I brought in the Graveyard Hate. Also trimmed 2 Thoughtseizes. The thing with trimming Thoughtseizes, I often trim Thoughtseize in against decks like this that can be really aggressive in the early game, and I really want removal more than I want discard. So I just I basically, so this is it. This is what I was talking. When you're playing against Rakdos or Izzet decks, once you resolve the Kaldra, they can't deal with it, so they don't. A lot of these decks don't play cards that can exile Kaldra like Havar Might. Of course, Junt have access to Havar Might, but beside from that, if they're not playing a Saga, they will probably not have a good solution for it, and it's very fast clock. Definitely they can't deal with it, and that this is the reason why I like the Stoneforge. Okay, so also providing you with the Sword of Fire Ice for the Murktide matchup, one of the best cards in that matchup, and that's it. So let's check out the game 3. Okay, so basically just trimming on Gix and Thoughtseize here. For additional removal, I think Damn is one of the cards that I brought in the most, and it's just very good, very useful against a lot of decks. So Rhinos is a tier 1 deck at the moment, and it's very good in that matchup, taking their entire board, but also great against a lot of decks like Merfolk, Yawgmoth, stuff like this, all aggro and mid-range pars. Also kills, of course, kills Murktide, kills any creature. It's unconditional removal, which can also be mass removal. I really like it. Of course, there are other options. So here I was able to go Stoneforge Mystic and hold the not dead after all. This way, if my opponent tries to kill the Stoneforge, I still am able to put the Kaldra into play. Opponent has the Exalted trigger here, so I can't trade with Ragavan. If I could, I would just probably play Not Dead After All on Stoneforge, but this way there's no point. I just let them hit me for 3 here. And now I am tapped with Stoneforge. Finally I can put the Kaldra, and Kaldra then helped me get rid of the Grist. Very important part of this game. I had to shock in there to play the Stoneforge. Yeah, maybe it was not necessary. I really wanted it into play. I can use it as a jumper if they go for Ragavan again. Here they play the Spyro, they play the Unearth on Grist. Very good turn for them, but here it is. This is what I was talking about. Damn destroys the entire board. Kaldra survives because it has the indestructible. I kill the Grist, and that is game over. Okay, so game 3 won purely by having Damn, access to Damn post board in your deck. Feels pretty good. Okay, opponent actually gets rid of Kaldra here. They have the Havar Might, one of few decks that can do that, and I go for the Grieve here. Upon exiling the Spyro, opponent goes for Ragavan. They have 0 cards in hand, so I can just play the Undying Spell on Grieve, take out the Ragavan and let the Bloodgust through. So now I can equip with a Sword of Fire Ice, attack for 6 and kill the Bloodgust, or just make them activate the fetch. Opponent goes for another fetch, and they have the Spyro in graveyard, but they can't really block with their tokens, and also they can block with Bloodgust. So I go for attacks here, no point in killing Bloodgust, it will just come back. So I go for face and play the Stoneforge here as a blocker. So they actually can make 2 tokens here, which is close to block. And yeah, my opponent goes for a Blood Crypt here. I wait for them to tap out. It's actually not needed because they have 0 cards in hand. But don't forget that Wicked Token is... this is also sweet trick when you're playing the Ephemerate. So the Wicked Token makes opponent lose 1 life, and you can Ephemerate instant speed your creature to make your opponent lose 1 life. And this was the trick how... I mean, yeah, I had the clear win here, but sometimes in the past I used this trick to do the lethal. Okay, so that is it. That was match 2. Let's check out match 3. Okay, so keeping a 1-lander, but with Grief Scam and the Thoughtseize follow-up, so I keep this one. I was playing against merfolk and sorry, not merfolk, humans, and once again the difference between Ephemerate and the Undying spell. So basically here with 1 Ephemerate takes my opponent's entire hand, all 3 cards just gone. So very strong here, and no point playing Thoughtseize. My opponent doesn't have anything right now, so I can go for the Gix. Yeah, and this is the card that really disables my opponent from stabilizing. So here I can play a Gix, get the draw card, and if I didn't have a Gix here, maybe my opponent would be able to draw into something. Like they have champion and the meddling mage here, and another lieutenant or whatever could maybe let them stabilize. But Gix drawing me 3 cards already basically secures the lethal here. Opponent doesn't have any chance anymore, and that is the game. Okay, so very efficient against these aggro piles. Solitude Ephemerate is just very brutal against them. Okay, here my opponent goes for the Hierarch. I play the Thoughtseize, take the Meddling Mage, because Meddling Mage would definitely name Solitude, like that's like 100%. So I definitely need to take out the Meddling Mage, and they play the Copper Coat Vanguard, which is great for my Solitude Scam. I go for the Solitude Scam here immediately, taking their Hierarch, getting them off mana. Of course, they can play the Reflector Mage, bounce my Solitude. That is totally fine, I don't really care about it. Now I already resolved Solitude, so my opponent plays the Grief, plays Meddling Mage on Grief this time. And again I go for the Gix, drawing additional card, and again Gix kind of secures of me just not letting opponent to stabilize at all. I take a Reflector Mage from opponent's hand, so they have they played Talia, 0 cards in hand right now, and they can't really block the Gix efficiently here, so I draw another one with Gix, putting Stoneforge on the field with Kaldra next turn. A draw step, this is also very significant ability in this variant. So you can play Ephemerate on your opponent's draw step. That is instant speed. Discard on the draw step. This means they can only play instant speed spells. This is like similar to what you do with the Fable flipped and then copying the incarnations, but here you can do it earlier, as soon as turn 2 or whatever. So that is it. Okay, that is the match against humans, and yeah, I think this type of decks like Merfolk's humans, I think they have even worse Orzhov Scam matchup that it was against the red-black, because the Ephemerate is like a really devastating card against them. Okay, so here I keep a Grief without a Scam spell, but I'm playing first, I have the Bowmaster, perfectly killing their Dragon Rage Channeler, such a good card in the matchup, especially when you're on the play. Also the Dauthi here is great, so I can go for the Bowmaster, killing the Dragon Rage Channeler, basically disabling their Ragavan is such a really good. Okay, so here I can go for Dauthi and killed the second Dragon Rage Channeler, so really already considerable advantage against the opponent. They go for iteration, find bubble, they can't even crack the bubble because I'm just going to kill the Ragavan with my Bowmaster ping. Okay, so here I go for the Grief, look at their hand, and basically they have 3 lands. But yeah, they top deck well, iteration. And yeah, definitely a raise here, but I'm in a very good spot. Opponent has Thoughtseize into Death Shadow, so I would say some good top decks for the opponent, but I have more than enough stuff here to win this game immediately. And yeah, it's just too much. Opponent had kind of a bit flawed with a lot of lands in their hand. They did find some good stuff from the top, but that was not enough, and I have little there. Okay, so let's check out the game 2. Okay. Also, Grixis Shadow might be popular again, so let's check the sideboarding plan for this one. Okay, so I trimmed similar as before. I trimmed on Gix and trimmed on Thoughtseizes. I want my temporary lockdowns and them in this matchup. It's a very efficient card, lockdown, taking basically whatever they play. So taking shadows, taking channelers, Ragavans, Orcish Bowmasters, it removes their entire deck. So I decide to risk it here, go for the Grief Scam into their open mana, but Drowning Loch is not good against Grief. So I was able to discard both of their cards here and get the put Stoneforge on the field in a situation where they didn't have anything in hand. So they draw 2 from bubble, and they didn't have a solution for Stoneforge, and they decide to concede very quick games against Shadow. I think it's a great matchup because of the Solitude, obviously, and also the Grief Scam available. Okay, so that is it. That were all the wins from this league, and now we are going to watch the last match of this league, the defeat. Okay, so basically this is pretty decent hand. Okay, I think my opponent was playing a Rhinos, and in most cases when you're playing a second, first game is a loss, but that is a reason why they of course had a removal for Dauthi. My only hope here was either keeping Dauthi or Stoneforge alive before they resolve the Rhinos. This way I can get Kaldra on the field or copy the Rhinos with Dauthi. I didn't unfortunately didn't have the Grief Scam on time, but yeah, I got the Grief almost on time, so I was able to play the Stoneforge, scam the Grief here, take best cards from their hand, leaving them with just a dispute. So this means if they don't draw a removal here, I can actually trade with both Rhinos next turn. Just putting Kaldra on the field, Kaldra blocks 1 Rhino and Grief blocks a second one. Yeah, I didn't want them to counter the Dauthi. I was expecting them to play the dispute anyway, because if they dispute I can't play the Kaldra. This is why I played the Esper Sentinel. I was hoping for them to yeah, this ended up badly for me. I Actually didn't, because now they were tapped out and I was able to play the Dauthi, but they had removal for my Kaldra, so it didn't really matter, and my Dauthi Voidwalker doesn't do anything right now. So yeah, it almost mattered, but not nearly enough. Opponent finds Otavara for lethal, and that is it. Okay. Okay, so this is definitely one matchup where I board all my Grixis out. A 3 mana 3/3 is not good against Rhinos, and also Orcish Bowmaster is terrible. So especially another reason why I remove the Gix, because Gix is so good with Bowmaster, it can get you the draw too. But when you're taking the Bowmasters out, definitely don't want the Gix. Okay, so here I was able to go turn 2 Orzhov Scam and take a lot of cards from their hand, stripping them from both outbursts, and they actually had Dead Gone left in their hand, but they top deck into the Cascade spell, unfortunately. So I just took 2 from their hand and they top decked into third one, but this was actually fine, because now I was able to take out the Dead Gone, which means I can my Stoneforge survives, and when my Stoneforge survives, this means I'll be able to get Kaldra on the field next turn, so hopefully Kaldra can stop the Rhinos. Unfortunately, my opponent also has Otavara again this game, which is their only solution for Kaldra, and they had it both games. But yeah, here I top deck one of my sideboard cards. Temporary lockdowns plus dams go in from my sideboard. Also I have the Dranite Magistrate, I have Chalice of the Void. 8 very strong powerful cards for the matchup, but we will also see how they can turn against you in game 3. So basically we will see a very weird game, this one and the next one. It was like almost like I had too much hate. Okay, unfortunately I tried to go for Kaldra here, but at least I was now able to resolve my Sword of Fire Ice, and I can equip Sword next turn and go for the attacks, kill the Tidebinder and be in a very good situation. Opponent attacks me, puts me on 5 life, and yeah, now I'm in a pretty good situation. My equip goes through, opponent still holding Otavara in hand, and now I can kill the Tidebinder, and I played the Stoneforge. A lot of these times I kind of wished I had another equipment, yeah, at least on the sideboard or in a main board like Batterskull, but I don't think, also often just a lot of times you really don't want to draw into 2 of these non-unplayable, non-castable equipments. So I think having just 2 of these worked well in the past for me. I'm happy with it. Okay, so here I go for the Sentinel equip and pass the turn. So now my opponent is on 6 and I'm on 5, and opponent resolving the Footfalls. So they let me draw a card here with Sentinel, and I draw into Temporary Lockdown, and now definitely something to think about here. Will I play the lockdown or not? So first I go for Kaldra, because I was expecting them to play the Otavara, and now they were tapped out, and I had a lot of stuff that I would exile with my lockdown, and this is why I decide to not go for the lockdown but just go for the grief and plus Ephemerate. This way, if they go for the attacks, I can still survive the attack. Probably my grief survives, or even if it's not, I still have a sword left on the field, which can I equip on any creature I draw, and I still have the backup lockdown. Again, I draw a card here from the Esper Sentinel. Opponent kills the sword and passes the turn with 0 cards in their hand. And I have now lockdown for the Rhino, but I top decked the Solitude, so I played my Solitude, and I'm 1 mana away from equipping Kaldra. If I can equip Kaldra, I think that's immediate game over. So I play my Sentinel, pass the turn. Opponent has Tidebinder. I decide to Ephemerate immediately, get rid of the Tidebinder before they draw into something. So they draw a land for the turn. I'm basically hoping for a land here. I just want to equip this Solitude. I get them. These are like 2 sorcery speeds. Removal, so having Solitude to get back to 10 life was important if they get the Violent Outburst, but opponent didn't get anything and concedes here. This is the game. Okay, so let us check out this game 3 right now. Very weird game, and you'll see what happened. Okay, so I keep mediocre, just like good stuff, Orzhov hand. Okay, so I don't have any hate despite boarding in a lot of these, like lockdowns, dams, Granite Magistrates, Chalice of the Void. That is a lot of hate, but I keep a good stuff hand, and that is on the draw. And actually my draws were not great, but I find some basics to play around Blood Moon. I'm not sure if people want to like board in Blood Moon against me, but if I can fetch for the basic, I will do it. Okay, so here again my opponent gets rid of Dauthi Voidwalker. Okay, so I had option to play the Stoneforge here, but if I play the Stoneforge, then I don't have the Solitude Ephemerate available. I didn't want to attack into Rhinos. So they let me draw a card. I was hoping to draw another white spell here. Unfortunately, I didn't get it. I get the Sword of Fire Eyes, but I had to ditch the Stoneforge here, and my opponent plays Subtlety. This is like really unfortunate moment and a crucial moment for this game. Opponent gets rid of my Solitude in a situation where I would definitely be in a high advantage if I was able to take out both Rhinos here with the Solitude Ephemerate. Yeah, this way I play the Grief. I take my opponent had just 2 lands in their hands. They had, I think, Steamlands and Boseiju, and weirdly I was expecting them to use the Boseiju on my Esper Sentinel here, but they didn't do it. Maybe they forgot, maybe they had some reasons, but they didn't do it. So I was able to trade with one of the Rhinos, and actually, like I had, as you can see, I had a lot of these sideboard cards like Dam, Temporary Lockdowns, deals easily with the board like this one. Also, since I have Ephemerate in hand, like another Solitude can easily deal with these 2 Rhinos on the field. So I'm still in the game. I know my opponent still has Boseiju in hand and the mystery card. Okay, so yeah, opponent goes for the attacks, and I top deck 2 lands in a row, and that is it. That is the game. So kind of close. If I resolved the Solitude there, if they didn't have that Subtlety, this would probably be the trophy game, because I will have the Sword of Fire and Ice equipped on my creatures, especially on Solitude with lifelink. That would be good to buy me enough time, and I didn't have time to use this Ephemerate. This Ephemerate got wasted, didn't have any targets for it, and yeah, that was it, unfortunately. And okay, so that was the entire league. So I think if in this league, this deck performed really strong. A lot of hate for the Rhino matchup, because I think that Rhinos are tier 1, maybe the best deck in the format at the moment, so I think you really have to be prepared for it. But also the cool thing is Lockdown is the best card in entire Magic against Scales and against Hammer Time. So they just lose if you have like that what is it called, that artifacts can be activated, ability of artifacts plus Lockdown is like a game over for them, because they can't might the Lockdown. But even without it, Lockdown is usually just concede on cast. Okay, so rest in peace, also the strongest graveyard hate piece in the game. Damn cool single removal that can be really crucial against aggro decks, as you could see in a few occasions. Against Rhinos, great. Against all creature decks, like we saw against that Giant Sacrifice. So Sheldred is good, definitely playable, but I would consider post Fury Ban a card Turak on the sideboard, because it has pro white and it also hates into that matchup. Discarding cards, a very strong threat, very hard for them to deal with. It just hits for 4 every turn until they die. Okay, so Fractures on the sideboard as sideboard piece, very versatile, that can deal with artifact enchantments, but also planeswalkers. Okay, so friendly reminder to click like, click subscribe. Hope you like the gameplay, hope you like the deck and the video. Okay, so again, thank you for watching. That is it for today, and goodbye.